Russell Martin, manager at MK Dons.
I'm Kelly Summers, and in the latest Pros Perspective interview, I caught up with former player and current MK Dons manager, Russell Martin. It's great to have not only someone with such an extensive playing experience, but also now management experience as well. Let's firstly talk about that player-manager relationship. How important is that in football?
I think it's the most important, if I look at it from both sides, the most important relationship in terms of performance at a football club. So if I'm looking at it from a player's side, I really needed to believe in, to get the best out of me and perform to the best of my ability, maximise my potential, if you like. I really needed to believe in someone, to believe in something. So, and that was the manager. Ultimately, it's the manager at a football club who implements the playing style, the philosophy of the team, the mentality of the team, and the players as well. So I think it's the most important, the dynamic of it, whether it's the manager or the coaching staff, is the most important relationship. And now I'm on the other side of the trench, if you like. So, I realise that even more. It's huge, and it's really difficult to have the time to build all those relationships with 25 different players, and then all of the staff as well. So you have to really invest in it, and the little time you do get together is really important. Really important to have that connection with them and connection with what you're trying to do. So what you believe in, what you want to implement, and so it's the most important thing. It's the connection between people. It's whether it's a player and a manager, whether it's the manager and staff, whether it's a player and the assistant manager. Connection is so important. And so if I look at all the best relationships I've had, all the best times during my career as a player, I always had a really strong relationship with the manager I was working for.
In terms of when you did go into management, I imagine you spent quite a lot of time reflecting on the managers that you had played under as well, and took bits from all of them. But which type of manager got the best from you?
It's really interesting because I'm a complete geek, so I made notes all throughout my career. I knew I wanted to be a coach and a manager really early on. So I've kept loads of notebooks throughout my career, writing down different sessions, different ways different discussions I've had with managers, stuff I really liked, stuff I didn't like so much. Ultimately, you can only be yourself, and you have to be authentic, and you have to be honest to what your personality is. I couldn't try and lead like some of my managers, even if I wanted to. It's not my personality. So, but it's really interesting that probably the people that got the best out of me it's not going to be the way that I lead. So it's not going to be the way that I manage. If I look at it, probably my best football was probably played under Paul Lambert and Alex Neil, two really fiery and intense Scottish managers who were really demanded really high standards. And with both of them, I always felt I knew they respected and I knew they rated, because I played at every game pretty much for both managers. But at the same time, I always felt on my toes. I didn't really know what they thought deep down of me as a player. And with both, I had some really honest and brutal conversations at different times about my own performance, about teammates. So I had a really strong and close, if you like, in terms of honesty and respect, but not that warm. So it wasn't ever like a friend's relationship. It was always a real hierarchy there. But both kept me really on my toes and probably got the best out of me as a manager, because I always felt like I had something to prove to both of them, always at all times, and because of how demanding they were. So, but I can't be like that. I can't lead from a distance like that, in terms of that distance between and that hierarchy, because I've come out of the dressing room, and so I know all the guys that I'm managing now. So it would have been really difficult for me to create that distance straight away. It wouldn't have worked. And two, it's just I'm a completely different person to those guys. So they're probably the two guys that got the best out of me in terms of performance. And Gordon Strachan as well, another one who's similar to those guys, really demanding, really intense. And obviously I wasn't with him that much. It was 4 or 5 times a year, so there was never that real closeness. But all three probably got the best out of me at different times, but they're really different to what I am.
You say that you're different to that. What are you like as a manager then?
I want to feel really connected to my players. So I want to be close to them. I want to understand them. I want to understand their situation. I want to make sure I know the context of why they are, and I want to know what motivates them. And so I want to be really close and warm with them, because I think it's how I want to lead. It's my personality. It reflects my personality. But also I need to be firm with them. I know that you can't be warm and soft and fluffy. It doesn't work. There needs to be a line where, you know, these are the demands, these are the standards, and if you fall below them, then we're going to have a problem. But if you don't perform, but you've given everything you've got to the preparation, to buying into what we've got, there's never going to be a problem. If you don't perform and you've not maximised what you've got throughout the week in training, or you've not bought in fully to the culture or the performance of what we're trying to implement, then there'll be an issue. So if I look at it, it's probably warm but firm in terms of how I want to lead, and that might evolve, that might change, but at the minute it suits where I'm at, it suits the situation I've come out of the dressing room, and it suits me. I enjoy doing it that way.
How difficult is that to come out of the dressing room as a player and walk back in as such as a manager? Because I can imagine the dynamic changes so quickly, and as you've said, it's such an important role.
Yeah, the dynamic did change. So Saturday night I was still a player, and then by the Monday morning I was their manager. So I walked to the dressing room as the manager, spoke to a lot of players one-to-one, guys I'd been with the week before, and the dynamic shifted straight away. I was really conscious not to be any different, but it does change, and I really noticed the difference in some of them. And some of them, maybe it's a subconscious thing. Some of them be a really conscious thing, that they maybe want to give me respect as the manager and try and break that, distance themselves from being my mate or whatever to make it easier for me. But I see it as an advantage, really, because I know the players so well. I know the guys so well that I'm managing. I know what their issues were before. I know what they, where they want to improve, how they want to improve, what they need to work on. So I've seen it as a real positive. And also the guys, the way they've reacted to it, have been incredible. They've made it much easier for me than it could have been. They've been receptive from the start. They've given me nothing but respect. And we've been quite honest with each other as a group and individuals. So they've made it much easier. And also, my colleagues have been unbelievable. Obviously, I had a relationship with all of them, so I worked with them for a year or so as a player before. But they've been incredible in their help for me implementing what I wanted to do in terms of the culture and also the pitch as well. So I've really enjoyed it. Completely different dynamic. Been hectic, but it's been enjoyable.
A steep learning curve too, I imagine, but it does sound like quite a nice way to go into management in a way. You touched upon it there, your colleagues. How important are the people you've got around you now as a manager?
They're huge. So I don't see it as a hierarchy. I really like being open and honest with all of them and letting them know what the situation is, what I expect, what I want from them, and they've all been great. They all get an input. They all own what they do. So I'm not going to go and micromanage the head of sports and medicine because he's brilliant at what he does. He's done it for the last 20 years. So I trust him and fully trust him in what he does, and I'll back him in what he does. And hopefully, that's why they've backed me so much, is that they see that they've got someone who trusts in what they do, trusts the process. I'm not driven by, of course I'm driven by success and results, but my emotion is not driven. On a Monday morning, I don't come in and change how I feel if we get beat 3-0 or we won 3-0. For me, it's about consistency and process. And I've said that to all of the guys and all the people that work with me to help me get the most out of the players, that the process is the most important thing. So, and they are part of that. They're involved in the daily meetings we have, in the training with the sports science. We discuss, what we need physically for the day, the pre-activation with the physios and the sports science in the gym before training. So a huge part of what we do, a huge part of all our analysis of our training, our performances. So they've been vital for me, and and the coaching team especially. The guys that they're the only guys that I brought into the club, is the assistant manager and the goalie coach. Two people I knew would be great for me constantly, but at the same time, fully behind whatever I've wanted to do and help me do it.
You clearly have so much respect for the team around you. When you were a player, how did you view these backroom staff? Did you know how important they could be to you to help get the best out of you?
Yeah, so as a player, I was fully aware that I was someone who needed to maximise everything to carry on at the highest level. So if I look at it now, I spent 10 years at Norwich pretty much, and the guys I speak to most now are the staff. So it's not players, it was the head of sports science at the time. It's the sports science guys who are still there. One of them's left. It's the chef. I still speak to him a lot. I still speak to the physios. I still speak to Stuart, the technical director, a fair bit. So if I look at the relationships I've developed, it was the guys that I knew were just trying to help me constantly. And I tried to repay that help by helping them in terms of getting other players on board, in believing in what they're doing and listening to them, which is difficult at times when you've got 25 guys in the squad. Loads of ego. So I saw it as my duty as the captain there, and also someone who forged really strong relationships with these guys, to to make sure they were listened to and respected in the right way, because the backroom staff, sometimes get taken for granted, but these are the guys that day to day have most contact with the players, the physios, the sports scientists. It's not the coaches and the managers. These are the guys that before training are getting them ready, after training and making sure they're doing their stuff and getting prepared for the game on a Saturday. So I'm really conscious they're the guys that have most contact with the players. And that's why I think I had such a strong relationship with him, because I just bought into everything they wanted to do. And we created a really good culture there because of that, because of the trust in the staff that we had as a group of players, and ultimately what they gave us, how much they put into getting the best out of us. So it's so important.
How much have these backroom staff teams evolved and developed during your time from when you first started out as a young player?
Well, I look at it now and it's huge. So you've got so many new roles now, whether it's technical director, whether it's head of sports science, you've got the analysis department, which are growing massively. Manager pretty much do everything. And then I remember at Wycombe we were quite deemed forward thinking and progressive, and we were at the time. We got a sports scientist in, we got a nutritionist in. So this was 15 years ago, which was unheard of really, unless you're at a really top club, and we were in League Two at the time. So, and now that's pretty standard for most clubs to have, a nutritionist where they come in. So the backroom team's growing, and I think it's going to grow still. If I look at the psychology side of the game, I think it'll be pretty normal for clubs to have. That will be the area of growth now, I'm pretty sure. Sports science has been a huge area of growth, and it's been nutrition and the physio medical departments. And the next one has to be, for me, it has to be the psychology side of it. So I'm sure they are roles that into well-being of players and the psychology of performance. So I think that will be the next area of growth. So I see these backroom teams growing even more.
Do you use psychologists with your players at the moment? Is it something you've considered?
Yeah. So, it's dictated to by finance as well, but we've had various people come into the club to talk about different things. So the values of the players individually and as a group, the culture of the club, and then guys who are struggling. We'll do as much as we can as a coaching staff and a team of staff to help these and support these guys. But sometimes they need a different voice. They need someone else to speak to. They need to go away and away from the environment and just speak to someone who can really help them. So I've worked with various psychologists over the years, just because I've really enjoyed working with all of them, but I never wanted to stick to one. I always wanted to get another point of view. And if I look at it, you have to, as much as you're investing in your body during the week, how much hours we put in, how many hours we put into their bodies, physical preparation, the mind's the most important bit. And I really believe that. And it's something we're trying to really stress to the players is the mentality of them, and their mindset is the most important thing. It will dictate their careers. It will dictate what level they play at. It will dictate, some are dictated by physical capabilities. Some might not have the speed to play at the top level or whatever, but their mind, to maximise what they have, it will be their mental side of their game. And so, I've passed on, I think will help them the most and suit their personality.
What about performance analysis as well? Because it seems like those teams have really grown now as well, with the kind of the TV of the games and everything. Football is everywhere, but it does seem like internally at clubs now, games are analysed and opposition are analysed a lot more.
Yeah, I think it's really, for me, it's data and stuff. So I've had to get someone in who's really good, because it's not I'm fully aware it's not a strength of mine. It's not something that really gets my juices flowing, sitting there and looking at stats and data on performance. But it is a huge part of analysing. You can't see everything with your eyes during a 90-minute game of football. It's really difficult. So matches are filmed. We analyse our games. We go through individual performances, analyse individual performance with individual players. So it's a huge part of it. And I think that's another side that will continue growing. But I think it's really important to know we've sort of refined what we're looking for. So it's not just getting a whole list of stats and having a look and going, that's great. We've sat down with the analyst guys and said, in terms of recruitment, this is what we want. This is what we're looking for. In terms of our own performance, analysing opposition and our own performance, these are the things we want to look at. These are the parameters for us that define whether we're improving and also define what we need to work on. So it's having a clear role for data and stats. Otherwise, it just becomes you reading loads and loads and loads of figures and not really knowing what to do with them.
GPS is something that's used a lot more now than it ever was. You'll have used it as a player. Do you use it a lot now as a manager? Do you pay a lot of attention to it? Yeah,
it's really important that we know exactly what they're doing every day. So in terms of their physical load, and to periodise their training so they're peaking at the weekend on a Saturday, because ultimately that's the most important day. So I'm really conscious not to be completely driven by GPS stats, because ultimately you need to do work and you need to get fit and you need to stay fit. And there's a lot of tactical stuff to go through during the week, but it does become a consideration. Like, the guys fill in questionnaires every single morning before training on how they're feeling physically and mentally. And then you have to, you look at the stats as well. And if someone's done too much by the end, they come to the end of the week, Friday, you might have to taper their training and really tailor it so they're feeling good on the Saturday. So we use it, and most of the time, we see this similar numbers for different people. And that's probably the best way that we use it, in terms of differentiating what individuals have done throughout the week. So if there's a massive increase in someone's stress load during the week, there's something up. They might not be feeling it, but their body's carrying something, or they're not feeling 100%, in terms of carrying an illness or a virus. So we have to deload these guys and come off them. At the same time, if someone hasn't worked hard enough, they've not played for a number of weeks, we can use their GPS to know that they need to hit certain numbers, hit speeds.
Do you find, well, maybe you can speak, well, you can definitely speak from a player's perspective and a manager's perspective. Do you find it's really important to educate the players and to ensure the players understand why they're doing everything so they buy into it?
Yeah, there has to be a why. People, for them to be, the whole Simon Sinek thing, start with why, what, how. It's something I really believe in. I know my why, and I've explained that to the players. I had to. It's one of the first things I did. Why I'm doing what I'm doing, and why I want to do what I want. What I'm doing. So they have to have a why to everything. Really, they have to see the purpose behind what we're doing. Otherwise, it's really difficult. I find it really difficult to buy into something. And I was always like that as a player. It was probably a pain for some managers, because it was I always asked why we're doing that. What's the purpose of this one? And it wasn't always in front of the group. It might have been behind closed doors with the manager. Like, why have we done that? And if someone had a really good explanation for it, then it was, great. All right, cool. I can buy into that. I can get on that. But it's when stuff's done for the sake of doing it, or it feels like we're ticking boxes, I really struggle with that. So it's something I'm really conscious of now as a manager, that the guys need to see why we're doing it, and the how we're doing it, and what we're going to do to get there is up to us as a group of staff and players. But the why is the most important part.
It's kind of the age-old debate now that I'm going to ask you about. It's one that particularly comes up when it comes to pre-season in terms of strength and conditioning, or conditioning and running drills, I should say. Is there a place for that, or should the ball always be out? And I'm intrigued as to know, now you're a manager, if your view on that's changed at all.
I think it's got, if I look at all the best pre-seasons I've done, I think there's a mixture of both. Mm-hmm. I think you can't just, it's the days are gone where you just leave the balls in a bag for 2 weeks and just run until you feel physically sick. But I also think there's a place for that, every now and again, just to test the lads psychologically, and also it builds a great teamship, camaraderie. If they're in that together and they're running together and they're breaking through something psychologically, they know it's really tough, and they get to the end of it and they get to the top of it and they complete it. There's a huge amount of team building. It strengthens the spirit when you get through something like that. I really believe that. So there is a time and space, there is a time and place to put the balls away and just run. But I think it's definitely, predominantly and you want the balls involved as much as possible. But I do believe there's still a place for the old school, if you like, in terms of getting on the line and hitting another line in a certain time together.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. And finally, in terms of development, we talked about how it's developed over the years, backroom teams and the number of staff and the expertise there now. Are there any areas that you feel particularly need further kind of development or help?
Yeah, psychology, definitely. I think it's probably overlooked by a lot of clubs at the moment. Some clubs down to finance, some clubs will just not deem it as very important. But I think the way the football's going, people are changing, the world's changing. Footballers now, from when I started, are completely different people. They have to deal with a lot more intrusion, a lot more scrutiny with social media and stuff like that. When I was started out, people had to go to the pub, have a pint together and talk about how crap I was. And now they can sit on their keyboard and tweet it, and I can see it. So it's really, I grew up in and came through in an era where no one really paid attention to it. Now it's really difficult for the guys, because they get direct messages straight after games telling them how brilliant they are or how crap they are. So they have a lot more scrutiny now. They're much more connected to their supporters and to other people just through one of these, through a computer. So if I look at the areas that definitely need focus on, it's the mental well-being of players and staff. and also psychologically how to maximize and use their brain and their mindset to improve their performance consistently. The growth mindset stuff that a lot of academies are working on now, it's so important. So if I look at it, I think that'll be the next area of real development and growth in football. It has to be.
Well, Russell, thank you so much for your time. Really interesting insight from both players and managers' perspectives. And I'm sure the MK Dons players are looking forward to a bit of running when they get back after this.
I hope so. I am.
Russell, firstly, who was the best player you played alongside?
Pure football inability, I'd say Wes Hoolahan. He was, they call him magician at Norwich, and he was, some days it was just a joy to watch in training, and not to play against. He was horrible to play against. But, when he was on his day, he was incredible. He won games for us single-handedly. He was, incredible football player, and he, just the way he approached the game, just played with absolutely no worry or care in the world. Just played it like he was still at school, and I had a massive amount of respect for that. I still do, because it's not easy. And he was brilliant. What
about the best player you played against?
There's been a few. If I look at it, probably Luis Suarez was pretty special, and he always seemed to score hat tricks against Norwich. So he was very, very good. And then Gareth Bale probably as well. When I played right back as a left winger, he was him and Arjen Robben. Yeah, they were. Robben it's just the way he could shift direction, change direction so quickly, and I remember he just chopped me about 18 times once. I had to put it back on. But him and Gareth Bale, just for power and athleticism, and brilliant footballers.
What about the best match you've ever played in?
Good question.
There's probably been a fair few good ones.
I've only had about 4 good performances. So no, if I look at the best match in terms of for the occasion, the performance, it would be the playoff final for Norwich against Middlesbrough. It was incredible. We just, for such a big occasion, we played so well. We controlled the game completely, and not one person had a bad game, and just a brilliant day. We ended up winning 2-0, and it was just topped off a brilliant season.
I was at that game. It was very good. And what about your career highlight?
Again, probably that. I think there's been a lot. Promotion the first time to Premier League at Portsmouth away was playing in the Premier League. Incredible. Playing over 100 games there for Norwich. Amazing. I had a lot. I'm really grateful for my experiences. But yeah, if I look at it, it's really hard to single out one. International debut. I was terrible, but I went on to have 29 caps. So playing international football, them games, huge games. So if I look at it, it's really hard to define one, but promotions are special. After such a long and hard season, I've been really fortunate to have 5 of them through different leagues and stuff. So I'm really grateful for that. So if I look at that, really hard to single out one, but it would be celebrating promotion with a group of guys you've worked so hard with for a season.
I know you haven't been managing for too long, but have there been any managerial highlights so far?
Cool. I don't know. There's been a few lowlights already.
I wasn't asking that. There must be your performance and stuff.
Even just moments in a game, you see stuff that you've worked so hard on in training, and it's a completely different buzz to playing. But some things guys wouldn't even notice in the stand, But and I look at it and go, wow, we've worked on that and just executed it perfectly. It gives me a real satisfaction, real buzz. But if I look at it, just the general day-to-day connection with the staff and the players, I'm really enjoying it. And singling out results, there's been a couple: Portsmouth at home, Oxford at home. We played brilliantly, and really enjoyed it. And then celebrating with the fans after, it's been good fun.
Finally, it's been some journey. You've had a remarkable career. I kind of forgot some of the promotions and stuff that had happened to you. But if you could go back and speak to a young Russell or a player in a similar position just starting out, what advice would you give him?
I'd say believe in it, believe in yourself a little bit more, and don't set yourself self-limiting goals. I think I overachieved everything I thought I would. So I'd like to have set my sights a little bit higher when I was younger. It was always like, I just want to play a professional game of football. And then I got to League 2, and then it was like, get to League 1. I wish I'd just set my sights a little bit higher, a little bit earlier. But I maximised everything I had. I know that. And that's why I'm extremely grateful for what I had. I had a different route into it. But I would have said, just believe yourself a little bit earlier, a bit of a younger age. And it might have, who knows, I might not have even got as where I did. But just stick with that belief and just keep building it.